homosexuality.
My husband and I are most pleased to be in Vancouver
Yes, I am gay.
to wish the gay and lesbian, transgendered and bisexual community a very happy 35th anniversary of Stonewall.
You have found difficulty in adjusting to the normal social pattern of the community. Why is that?
Well, actually, there's no difficulty in one getting with the community. The thing is the community getting with the individuals.
And what individual are you speaking of?
I'm referring to we as homosexualities.
The homosexual in Canada and the United States are not able to live their own personal life.
If you look back to 1959, you'll find the first ever record of some 650 stories CBC TV has done in that time, and it's a show called Consensus. And the imaginative title was Homosexuality, a kind of debate with man on the street interviews about good thing or bad thing.
Do you think that they are in any way a danger to our society?
I believe they are, in my own humble opinions.
Just like anybody else, I think they should be locked up.
Do you think that they should be put away? Do you think that they are a danger, a menace?
Yes, definitely.
For the major homosexual offense, the full offense, 14 years imprisonment are provided.
Take this thing on homosexuality. I think the view we take here is that there's no place for the state in the bedrooms of the nation.
In the 1970s, gay and lesbian activist groups were springing up all over Canada, with Vancouver leading the way.
Way back when I began in the women's movement in 1968-69, all the women who were active around our issues for equality and basically life, we became conscious that lesbians were kind of secret and somewhat oppressed within our own movement. There was always a lesbian movement before the feminist movement, and its women's center was the Vanport Hotel down on Main Street.
I was an out lesbian within the women's movement, was going to the Vanport, talking to some other women. We formed New Morning Lesbian Collective, set up a house on Point Grey Road, and we were the first group in Canada to do that.
There were two other collectives, and one of them, Lavender Hill, for a while published The Pedestal, which was the feminist paper, but took it over as a lesbian paper. And then groups evolved. There was a lesbian phone line. There was a club called Vancouver Ms. There were publications like Matara.
And a group called Radical Lesbians came to this conference, and they brought these buttons. And most of us started it was the first time we'd seen something like this. We took the buttons and started putting them on. And we'd be walking down the hall at the conference and see one of our members with one of these buttons, and it would be like, I knew it, I knew it, I knew you were one, I knew it.
The transsexual, transgender female impersonation communities through the 60s and 70s had our watering holes down here in the downtown East Side Strathcona neighborhoods. They were the Kubla Khan on Main Street, the New Delhi on Main Street, the legendary Smiling Buddha down over here on East Hastings. It was really a wonderful time in Vancouver, and just a few blocks from us above Modernized Tailors here at Carroll and Hastings was the Gay Alliance Towards Equality. They had their office there.
Gay rights now! Continue the struggle! It's time for us to tell the Vancouver police.
The real prime demonstrations were in the mid-70s. We had demonstrations on violence. Gays were being beaten regularly at English Bay, on Davie Street, all over the city.
And then there was one person who was being severely beaten. Like, once the fight was over, you couldn't even identify his face.
To protect homosexuals' basic human and civil rights.
So actually I was instrumental myself in organizing that campaign, and it was very exciting. We had hundreds of people who were coming out of the closet, marching and demonstrating in front of the courthouse. And we had massive publicity saying that we will not take this anymore.
Protection, we're asking for protection.
There were
endless numbers of battles, and our strategy was to take it to the streets and be public. We didn't lobby, we didn't compromise. Our strategy was you go into the streets and you demand your rights.
The point behind this is that we want to pressure officials, we want to pressure governments, we want to pressure institutions into recognizing that we exist, that we experience repression.
There were no backroom deals and no quiet solutions, because part of the overall strategy was to acquire gay civil rights, to get those rights, but also to build a sense of gay identity at the time, and gay community.
This ruling establishes that no catch-all rubric can be made to apply to gay people, and anyone who thinks so, any gay person who thinks so, is sadly mistaken.
We were very fortunate to have Maurice Flood, who was openly gay and had the know-how, and he was respected all through Canada. His work really changed the Canadian gay movement. And his wife at the time, Cynthia, should be sainted by the gay movement, because, I mean, that woman did so much for the gay movement. And it must have been a difficult period for her, but she put her politics first, and without that team, we wouldn't have had gay liberation in Vancouver the way we have it now.
So we gotta fight back! In large numbers, fight back!
1979 was the first lesbian march, and we met at the art gallery, and I remember we decided we weren't going to march unless there were 50 of us, because it was kind of scary. And counted up, we decided we had 50, and we had more than 50, and we marched. And I remember shaking.
The Gazebo Connection was formed in the late 70s to bring lesbians together and for us to have an opportunity to socialize outside of the bars. We first went to a restaurant called the Gazebo, and so hence the name Gazebo Connection.
As bisexual people, we didn't really know, who our friends were in the community and where we weren't welcome. And so I think we started looking for places where we felt safe to be ourselves and where we knew that we weren't going to get judged. So the first group that I joined was actually a group that used to meet at Charlie's Lounge in the Heritage House Hotel.
The evolution of bars in Vancouver, I think, is very, very interesting. When I moved to Vancouver in the mid-70s, there was a very vibrant bar community going on, predominantly downtown, around the Castle Pub. The Faces was a wonderful little private bottle club that we had so much fun in. Then there was Central, the Shaggy Horse, and of course these kind of seedy ambassadors.
I remember walking round and round and round the block before I got up the courage to go into a bar called Faces at the corner of, I think, Seymour and Robson, and finally going in and signing a fake name and feeling the sense of both fear and exhilaration at the same time.
That last Friday, we ran an ad in the Express for this program, and they actually printed it after all those years of fighting with the Sun about printing the word gay. And the CBC noticed our ad, and we have a news crew in here tonight filming us. And some of the people who usually do this show can't go on television as being queer because it would jeopardize their jobs and their homes and all that stuff. So we're back again, and this is Silva.
And I'm Wade, and I'm filling in for Mike tonight.
In 1980, we had the first gay week ever, and we took a huge full-page ad out in the UBC newspaper and had Gay Week 1980 in red on it, so that when people dropped it, or if they were mad and threw it, you would see this ad all over the campus.
This is 1982, and the show Pacific Report is doing their first broadcast ever on the subject of AIDS, a completely unknown, hugely scary phenomenon that changed immeasurably the gay community in this city, all around the world, indeed our whole attitude towards sexual practice.
And that is very good for me, not to feel that I'm a leper, that I have not been shunned, I haven't been treated as a second-class citizen, because I'm not. I'm a good citizen, but I happen to have a disease.
You know, the question I guess is really being asked is, why aren't I more conspicuously different? And I think that touches on one of the most interesting things that's happening with the gay community generally. Do we want to be integrated? Do we want to be separate?
Yes, I am gay, and I'm proud to be a part of a community that is really a community of very beautiful men and women. When I could have been and should have been saying we and us and me and I, it's been they.
Around the late 80s, I got involved with a gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender television show, which had been started back in the early 80s, I believe, called Gablevision.
Gablevision got started when...
And it morphed into Prism, and that went on for about 10 years, and it morphed into Outlook, which remnants of still exist today on Shaw Cable.
If they take and if they blow our business apart, I promise you the next day, if we can do it, we'll be on the street with a little card table and we'll be selling our books and we'll be openly gay and proud about it, you know.
In 1990, the Gay Games came to Vancouver. I remember this very vividly because when you walked downtown in the city then, the streets were full of men holding men's hands, women holding women's hands, and it was the heady experience of feeling for once, just for a short time, that you were in a majority.
It was a 12-year struggle, and it was a tough struggle, but it was also a rewarding struggle. And in 1992, lo and behold, I was the first openly gay person to be ordained in Canada, and that, for me, was a wonderful day, a wonderful achievement. But it said an enormous amount about the United Church of Canada.
I think it's just so important that we as a community, we as a bookstore, we as people who care about these freedoms in our country, it's something that we have to care about every day.
This is our first issue of Extra West from 1993. Preview issue, brought it out in time for the Pride Festival. 5,000 copies snatched up. We're at 30,000 now, so that's a difference a decade can make.
Davie Village is a 24-hour operating area of the city. There are nightclubs, bars, restaurants, 24-hour supermarkets, shopping centers, everything you could imagine and more. We are marketing this area to the international community around the world, and it's getting attention, and we're drawing more and more people into the city all the time.
We're lucky to live in a country that is as supportive of our rights as Canada has been, but all levels of government have a lot of work to do. Federally, they've got to simply come to terms with what equality means under the Charter and get ahead with same-sex marriage. They've got to stop using criminal law discriminatorily against gays and lesbians, including the body house laws, obscenity laws.
Transsexuals are still not included under human rights protection.
We have a thing called the notwithstanding clause, and I hate to tell you, but I'm hearing about it again, and I said it would be a negative thing, and it still is.
They have to do a much better job with safety for kids in school.
Then there's also the fragmentation that comes from bigotry within our community, and I think that that's something that we all have to work to overcome.
We're all one, and we should be all striving for the same thing, equality. Same rights as every other citizen in this country.
It's important to me to see that we are represented in the Charter of Rights as a viable minority and not limited in those rights, excluded from making families. We do make families. We are families. Many of us have children. We need to be full members of the society in order to be responsible members of the society.
But we were largely invisible and largely silent. And that's what's changed. We're a community that's out and proud. We're a dynamic part of the city of Vancouver. We're affirmed by the leadership of the city of Vancouver at all levels. We have out gay and lesbian politicians like Tim and Ellen, Libby Davies at the federal level, Lauren and others, and so that makes a huge difference. And I think Vancouver should feel a real sense of pride on the 35th anniversary of Stonewall. That it was, in fact, some of the drag queens in the early days, and some of the people that were prepared to stand up and be visible and be counted that led to the liberation that we feel today.
Well, in 1970 to 75, we wouldn't have even been able to imagine the society discussing legalizing gay marriage.
No,
no,
and we certainly would never imagine that City Hall was going to be doing an event to honor lesbian gay history in Vancouver.
No, exactly.
I say to everybody in the community, we have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to work on, but there's a great sense of solidarity. There's a great sense of community spirit about what we do. We have great allies in the straight community. So, it's good to look back, and it's good to move forward to the struggles that we still have.
It's a two-way street.